were filming in one of our favorite places, Salt Lake City, Utah.
Salt Lake. We were filming for
Christmas production.
Christmas production.
2024. Have we said the title? Should we say the title?
We haven't, but we can.
Go right ahead. You do it.
Okay. Well, so here's the thing, and this is going to lead to what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Is the title this year is King of Kings.
That's right.
And you guys may say, "Oh, okay, big whoop," but the difference is that we are doing something that we've never done before.
Yeah.
We are doing a part 1 at Christmas and then part 2 at Easter.
That's right.
So it's one big production, which means we're doing one big script with reoccurring characters, which means we have to cast people. Now, let me remind you, within our productions that we do, we have characters that everyone's volunteer.
Yeah, all of them.
Every person's volunteer. So you're asking someone, hey, we need you to be in this role for Christmas. You have a reoccurring role in Easter.
Right.
And so, working out those time constraints, working out people's facial hair, like, okay, you can cut your hair between this time and this time, but during this time, you got to grow your beard back out because we need you for when we film in January for the Easter portion.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a whole thing.
It's a whole thing.
Yeah.
And so if people only come to Christmas, we're still going to end, and it is about Jesus' birth, but we're following the lineage and the life of Jesus. And I truly am so excited for the story.
I'm delighted.
Because we're following the lineage, obviously Christmas, he is born, and then Easter, the resurrection and crucifixion.
Yeah.
But we're jumping back and forth between like time loops.
That's right. Absolutely.
And at the end of Christmas, we're still going to end it in a way to where if you don't come to Easter, you will still get something and be ministered to.
Absolutely. You get the Christmas story really, really well done, but then it should appropriately entice you to come back for Easter and see where it goes.
Yeah. And then Easter, if people only come to Easter and they miss Christmas, we will have a previously on King of Kings.
Yeah, a nice little summary. You'll be fine. If you miss Christmas, then you'll be okay.
Yeah. And so anyways, so we're doing things that we've never done before, because whenever I was talking with Arvin over the summer, he was like, it was in the spring.
Yeah.
It was in the spring.
Yeah.
Arvin said, I really think the next thing in the evolution of the Victory Productions is to do one big story.
Yeah.
Which means we'll have to have motifs. A motif is, within music, Beauty and the Beast, their motif is da 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 da. Tale as Old as Time.
Yeah.
You will hear that tune throughout the whole movie, even before the song happens in the big ballroom.
Yeah.
That's a motif. So we're going to have to do motifs. That's an allegory. Motifs of certain things within the script and within music and Christmas that will also be in Easter.
That's right.
So it's just going to take a lot. It's been taking a lot of planning on Arvin's side.
Sure.
Yes. So, but here we are, season 8 of Behind the Scenes of Our Best Days. And if you haven't heard us before, the whole reason we do this is because we love to talk about the behind the scenes of our ministry and even of our own personal lives and what it's like. Because, we see what people show us on social media.
Sure.
Most people will post their best days. But you and me both know, those of you who are listening and watching, you and me both know that we all have a behind the scenes.
Yeah.
And that's what this podcast serves for. And that's our niche, that's our audience, that's who we're talking to.
Yeah.
So if it's your first time, we're welcoming you.
Yeah.
But, so let's first break down the film trip.
Sure.
How many film trips has this been that you have been like, I am going to make happen?
I think it was 2022. 33 AD with Joseph Bain playing Jesus.
Yes.
We had already filmed in this wonderful place we're very grateful for in Arkansas called the Great Passion Play.
Yes.
Kent Butler and the team there are very kind. They give us a phenomenal financial deal to go to their campus and film. We've done that since 2020 several times.
And they have an actual biblical set.
It's a whole biblical set. They've got a huge campus with a lot of different things. So we had filmed there in 2020 through present day. It's like a great go-to biblical area. In 2022, we were like, oh, we need additional footage of Jesus, because that was the one and only time that Joseph Bain was available, who's now like a big actor doing it. We need to get footage of him. And in the past, we had done like a last minute, you, me, and Spencer, our cinematographer, Spencer Click, jump in the van, drive 16 hours to New Mexico, get some footage, come back, and and it wasn't going to be feasible to do something on that scale. And we had done really well budgetarily. We had saved a lot of money. We were very careful. So we thought, we could actually afford during this post-COVID time to fly to Salt Lake City.
Yeah, dude, flights were so cheap because everyone was like, Anyways, continue.
No, yeah. So basically, we found places in the country where we could fly there for cheap, and have access to several different kinds of terrain all in the same vicinity. So that's why Salt Lake City was excellent. It still is to this day. You can have mountains, you can have water, you can have greenery and trees and nature, you can have desert, all within a several hours drive, which means within the course of a week, you get 3 or 4 very unique locations accomplished. So I don't remember, I think we've done one of those for each show since Easter 2022. What does that make it? 5 or 6 shows. And we've done them for fall films as well. And so now that's become a staple of the filming portion. And we just went to Salt Lake. This was my 4th time in Salt Lake. We scouted it in June, came back, and everywhere that we had scouted, we ended up filming at, and it went perfectly.
Yeah, so, and the whole reason behind scouting is sometimes you have to get licenses, you have to get permission.
Yeah, absolutely. And you also don't want to be figuring out what to do when there are 15 people sitting in a van waiting to film.
I have a bad story.
You go for it.
Okay, so this is the reason. Okay, there is a reason, guys. We like to go on rabbit trails, but we will arrive at the point of what hurdles are keeping you back from personal growth.
Yeah.
Okay? I know that doesn't make sense to what we were just talking about with this film trip, but what hurdles are keeping you from personal growth?
Yeah.
Okay? Some people, it is where they feel safe. Some people, it is your belief system, how you believe, your core values of how you believe. I'm going to preach a little bit, and then we're going to come back to what I'm talking about with the film.
Yeah.
The man at the pool of Bethesda, the man at the pool of Bethesda, his whole belief system was, when the water is stirred by an angel comes to this pool and stirs it once a year, and I'm not quick enough to get to the water before everyone else gets there. And when the angel stirs the water, whoever touches it first gets healed.
Yeah.
What a cool story. It's in the Bible.
Right.
His core belief was, that's the only way for me to get healed.
Right. That's right. I have to be there. Yeah.
And then who came along?
So Jesus shows up and asks him, do you want to get well? And he says, I can't.
Because of his belief system.
Right.
And then he said, take up your mat and walk. Jesus called him to do something that was outside of his belief system.
Yeah.
And his biggest hurdle, holding him back, and here's the thing, I bet he was a good person.
Sure.
He obviously believed in angels.
Sure, yeah, he's there.
So
Absolutely.
imagine you are a good person, you believe in God, but yet you're still sitting there being a wham baby.
Sure.
Being like, well, I can't because beep, boop. So today we're going to remove those hurdles. Okay.
Yeah.
Another hurdle is blame. Well, because of this, well, we don't have the budget for that, and wah.
Yeah, that's right.
I know I'm talking like the babysitter on Muppet Babies, but
but there's a reason for that. Yeah.
But that's what every time my kids start complaining and they go, Dad, but do we have to? I always go, wah, wee, wee. And they go, stop. And I go, wah. And they go, stop. And I go, wee. Anyways, my kids hate it. But they go, why do you do that? I go, because that's what you sound like.
That's funny, man.
Because they blame.
Yeah.
And I don't know, that could be abuse. But,
We'll ask OSHA, yeah.
Yeah, we'll ask Ocean. It's a full circle joke there. But it's these things that keep us back from growth.
Yeah.
Okay, so saying those things, going back to our productions, when we started doing our productions, the first hurdle we had to get over was we filmed everything. There's a park nearby our church called Hunter Park.
Yeah.
We went in the woods and we filmed at like midnight till 3 a.m.
Yeah.
We filmed what do you call that? Oh God, the Garden of Gethsemane.
Sure.
We did that, and then we would film in our studio, and that was what we did, and it was like groundbreaking. But the whole thing was, we don't have the budget to go anywhere.
Sure.
We don't have the budget to go anywhere, so we just need to find places around. Then for several years, I found some places on Pinterest and Instagram. If you follow travelers, you can pin where they travel. And I found in Jet, Oklahoma.
Nice.
Oklahoma has salt plains. Oklahoma has the Little Sahara Desert.
That's right.
Oklahoma has Gloss Mountain State Park.
That's
we
right.
started filming in western Oklahoma where there's the Wichita Mountains.
Totally, yeah.
And it was great. And every level we stewarded, and we did it well.
Yeah.
And we tapped out those resources for 3 years. We even told other churches, hey, you should film here.
Sure, yeah, absolutely.
And it was awesome to see other churches also film there and do their thing. And then it came to the point where after doing that for 6 years, it was 6 to 7 years, it was finally in 2022, it was, okay, now it's time to film someplace where there's an ocean.
That's right.
Now it's time to film a place where there's an actual mountain.
That's right, yeah.
And so even that was having to make us grow.
Totally.
And the budget didn't change. We had to change.
Yeah, we changed how we do things, yeah.
Arvin changed how we did things. And so many times we can get just stuck. It's like people who say, I want to be a youth pastor. And then after a year being a youth pastor, they go, I just don't know what I'm going to do all day. And I'm like, because you think being a youth pastor is just preaching and being cool.
Right.
And then sitting in your office, and after you do a YouTube tutorial video, what else is there left to do?
Yeah.
Get in the schools.
Yeah.
Be at every school lunch.
Yeah, absolutely.
Anyways, sorry, I'll get off. I feel like you can continue to evolve your position, but it's genuinely up to you.
Totally.
It is to break past this hurdle of, oh, well, I don't have this, I don't have that. Who cares? You have now put your destiny in the hands of someone else.
That's right.
Whoever you're blaming, they now are in control.
That's right, yeah.
And so it was the whole thing of, well, we probably can't do a podcast because it just takes...
Oh, yeah, all the work. Sure.
All the work.
Yeah.
And then Arvin figured it out, and it was like, okay, let's start doing it. Regardless if you like this podcast or not, to us, it's a victory.
Yeah, no, for real. It exists. It exists. It's
It
existed
exists.
for 8 seasons. Yeah.
8 seasons.
Yeah.
And it's like,
absolutely.
okay. And I think that people are waiting on permission. This is your permission slip.
Totally, yeah.
So anyways, okay, now back to the bad story. The first time we tried to do a film, one thing that Arvin said, just to bring it back, he said, we scouted so that way we knew exactly where to go and we were able to get the most out of these volunteers that had to sacrifice a lot just to be on this trip.
Totally, yeah.
I did not do that. The first time I was like, let's get 2 vans and let's drive to this place called the Monument Rocks. I found it on Instagram.
Yeah.
And it's these very cool, big rock structures in Kansas.
Nice.
It's an 8-hour drive. It looks super cool. As we're filming, I see, they're like, oh, we need some water. And I see some water under a barbed wire fence. And I'm like, let's go over there. We'll film. This is where Joseph and Mary, while we are filming it, a man pulls up in his pickup truck, cocks a shotgun, like, and I'm like, ah! And he goes, get off my property, you mother beep, 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 beep. Starts cussing us out. Ryan Stafford is like, oh, okay, we're sorry. He goes, what are y'all even doing? Why y'all even dressed up like that? Y'all bunch of clowns, you sickos. We're all in Bible outfits. And we're like trying to scramble back underneath. We didn't ask permission. I did not plan.
Sure.
Then, and he ended up being the owner of this state park.
Yeah, wow.
And he was like, I don't want y'all filming on my land. I don't want y'all filming on my rocks. I'm from OSHA. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, no. The head of OSHA, yeah.
Anyways, so we were like, oh, man, well, let's drive across the border to Colorado.
Yeah.
And so I was like, I'm thinking on our feet.
Yeah.
Let's go across to Colorado.
Yeah.
And then I told this person who was helping us, who was the admin at that time.
Yeah.
Hey, there's a place called the Paint Mines.
Yeah.
And it's these different colored stones. And I think that we can get, and it's a very beautiful spot.
Yeah.
Right on the Kansas-Colorado border.
Yeah.
I think that we can get the same type of
Nice.
footage.
Sure.
And I go, can you call and see? Oh, and we also rented someone who had a donkey.
Amazing.
So
they're tagging along.
So they're tagging along, and they go, "Hey, so because we're staying in Colorado, is this going to extend our time?"
Wow. Yeah.
Now all of a sudden, money is piling up.
Sure. Yeah.
Because we were paying for them.
Of course.
And so, anyways, and I go, we'll figure it out later.
Yeah. Yeah.
My hurdle was, and this is something that is a blessing and a curse, is that me and my brother, which is Pastor Paul, we are very much like shoot, ready, aim.
Yeah.
We're activators. We're like, okay, you want us to land on the moon? All right, well, I'm going to run over to Walmart, pick up some stuff, and I'm starting to build a rocket ship today by 11 a.m.
Right.
And people are like, John, you're not even trained. Like, where are you going to get jet fuel? And I go, I'm going to figure that out at 12 p.m.
Yeah.
Like, that's just how I do it.
Sure.
Which is actually a hurdle. It's a blessing sometimes. But then it's a personal hurdle of like, that's keeping me back from growth.
Yeah.
And everyone else being so frustrated around me.
Yeah.
And it's keeping us from really reaching more people
in
the long term with our productions.
Sure.
So we get to this paint mine. They take a donkey down into these paint mines. I did not know that it's like a protected site.
Oh, wow.
2 park rangers come up with their sirens on.
Yeah.
And they're like, you can't have livestock because if it chips the rock, it's, like certain caves and certain things are protected.
Yeah.
So anyways, and they're like, and you guys don't even have a license to film. And I was like, oh yeah, I had my person reach out to you. And my person just goes, John, that was 3 hours ago. I reached out to them, but we didn't hear back.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, so then they were like, you guys got to get out of here.
Yeah.
Guys, I'm not lying. I go, okay, I looked up on Google Maps a park nearby.
Yeah.
We drive to this park. I'm not joking. It looks exactly like Hunter Park, which is 3 minutes away from the church. But we are now 10 and a half hours away, and we filmed the whole thing in a place that looks like something that was 3 minutes away.
Yeah.
It was a poop show.
Right.
Now, it worked out. It was fine.
Sure. Great show. Yeah.
It was a great show, but I wasted so much money.
Yeah.
And so as Arvin has come on, he's really helped make things more excellent. And there's just certain things that, I've had to give up and continue to evolve. Maybe you guys who are listening, maybe you guys know what I'm talking about. Have you guys ever been forced to evolve because pain just makes you?
Right. No, for sure. Yeah. I think that if you're approaching the conversation of growing in excellence, more often than not, people who are attracted to media and production stuff, they have a talent and they want to contribute. And it happens with churches as well. If they're on stage and they want to sing, if they have this dream of like, oh, God told me I'm going to be a filmmaker or a professional worship leader, I'm going to be this thing. And it's not just for stage things, it's for everything.
Yeah.
Most people have this long-term ambition, and they believe that they're going to do some stuff on the way there that prepares them for it. But what they don't realize is that the thing that's going to prepare them is the disappointment and the pain, and that will be a caveat, a catalyst that enables them to investigate themselves. So what tends to happen is a person shows up very energetic and excited up front,
Yes.
and then they make an attempt to pour their whole heart into everything, which is good.
Yes.
But then they think that the percentage of their heart that they're putting into the project or the community is the percentage of authority they should have.
Okay, so hold on. You got to say that slower for me.
Sure.
So the person who's like, I put, like if they're 100%.
Sure.
They're like, I put 100%
Yeah.
of my effort into the stage design or the lobby decor of this event.
Sure. Essentially what they're saying, and an easier way to understand it is, I will try my best when I'm in charge. I will try my best when I have control. So it's, if you're asking me to put 100% of my effort and my time and talent and giftedness into this, then I better have 100% of control, and I better have 100% of authority. And that doesn't happen. for anybody. So if you're incapable of giving 100% to something that you have maybe 0.05% control over, then that's the parable of the talents. Those servants were giving a varied percentage of commitment to different amounts of control and authority. One guy's got giving 0% because he has one talent.
Yeah.
Other guy's got two, hardly more than the other guy, but he gave 100%. And his reward was the same as the guy who turned 5 into 10. So essentially, to make it practical, I have found that one of the biggest hurdles is the idea that I need to be in charge in order for me to care and in order for me to give all of myself. Because otherwise, what happens is I give all of myself and I'm not in control and I'm not in charge. So when things change, I'm married to these ideas that I gave. I'm married to this approach that I wanted to have. And now that is being tossed out the window. So I'm disillusioned. I'm disheartened. I don't want to do this anymore. I quit. And a lot of people exit the highway of going toward God's plan for their life because they're saying, well, I want to be driving and I want to be in control and I want whatever, not realizing God assigns you to people on the way there in order to like prepare you to actually be able to steward that someday. Because if you go from not having any experience to all of a sudden being in charge of a massive thing, you will still get to a point where you realize, oh, I'm not in control of the world. I'm not in control of the market. I'm not in control of the universe. So I quit. And then when you quit, you're wasting a whole lot more time, energy, talent, and worst of all, the people who trusted you and believed in you. So the challenge is to arrive at a place where you can remove your identity from your work.
Remove your identity from your work.
So that the work can exist on its own, regardless of who you are or aren't.
Yeah.
And then what eventually will happen is that they can team together again, but now they're in the right order, they're in alignment. They need to be, we've talked constantly this season about God's identity, God's work. Those things are coupled together. God's work emanates from his identity. That work should feed your identity, and then your identity should feed your work. But most people have their, it's the other way around. They're upside down. They have their work, their reputation, their social media following, their sense of whatever, and then they put their identity on top of that. So as the work goes up and down, fluctuates, succeeds and fails, that's how they feel about their own identity.
Man.
So to land the plane here, you have to commit to the process of, I have very little control, authority, and power, but I'm going to give my all into this. And if you can accomplish that, God will incrementally increase the amount of control you have, and your perspective on that control will change.
Your perspective. So whenever you begin to separate your identity from your work.
That's right.
And the second thing you said was, well, first investigate.
And be
like, okay, why do I feel the way that I feel?
Totally.
And then if you're like that whole scripture, search me, O God, renew my heart. Search me and see if there's any anxious thought. Remove everything from me. Lead me in your way everlasting. I think it's Psalms.
139. You're reading
Psalms
it right.
139.
You got it. Yeah.
So investigate, search me, O God. Remove every evil thing.
Right.
Okay, now that I know that reason why I feel the way that I feel, I need to separate my identity from my work. And then the third thing is to land the plane.
Sure, yeah. To land the, sorry, I'm like all over the place with this idea.
I apologize.
It is, because it's not really even linear.
Okay.
It's more of, you go to a theme park, there's no order of events.
Yes.
You go to the map, you see the rides, and you see a circle that says you are here. And you go, okay, based on where I'm at, I'm close to this ride, I'll go to this one, I'll go to that one. This is all stuff that happens out of order with each person, and God chooses how that goes. So those things are taking place, but for the sake of today's conversation, what ends up happening is I need to become capable of wholeheartedly operating in an environment where I'm not in charge.
Wholeheartedly operating in an environment that I'm not in charge, because, going back to the scripture that you brought up, the story of the talents, the guy who received how many?
5.
He made 10.
Right.
He multiplied. And then at the end of that scripture, he was actually given the wasted talent
Right.
from the guy who used one.
Totally.
I'm sure he's going to multiply that. At some point, that person with 5 talents is going to be the one lending.
That's right.
He's
Yeah.
going to be the boss.
Totally.
Like the boss returned.
Totally.
And the boss was like, okay, I'm going to raise up this
Yeah.
guy because
Yeah.
I feel like he has the talents,
Right.
but he also multiplies them.
Right.
So at some point, that guy with the 5 talents is going to be the boss.
Right, absolutely. Because the thing that has to change ultimately is not the church you work for, and it's not the people you're serving. They don't have to change. What has to change is my perspective on the talents that I'm stewarding. Because that guy who turns 5 into 10, his reward is the joy of the master.
The joy of the master.
Because if you'll remember at the end of the story, the master shows up and goes, "Hey, what did you do with it?" And he goes, "Hey, you gave me 5. Here's 10." He gives all 10 back. He doesn't keep any of it back. If you'll remember, there's the other story in Scripture where the people who get hired at 7 a.m.
Yes.
get paid the same as the people who get hired at 4:45 p.m.
Yes.
And at 5 p.m. they all get paid the same. The guy who turns 5 into 10 could potentially feel that way about the guy who has 2 and turns it into 4, because this dude ended with less than this guy started with, and yet their reward is the same. Those scriptures where the master gives the reward to both of them
Yes.
is verbatim, word for word, the exact same, at least in the NIV and NLT. So their reward is not the talents that they multiplied. Their reward is the newfound sense of relationship and trust with the master.
So it goes back to what you said.
Yeah.
Their reward is not the multiplied talents.
Right.
Which is, most people think, oh, my reward is how great of a job I did,
Sure.
which goes back to identity
Sure.
being work.
100%. Exactly. Exactly.
What you're saying is
Yeah.
the reward is the master is joyful
Yeah.
and grateful for me.
Right.
That's my reward.
That's right.
Which is now separating your identity
Right. From your
your work.
performance. Absolutely.
Dang.
So
I
your
hope you
perspective
guys
has to
got
change
that.
on that. Absolutely.
That's insane.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not insane. That's just very revelatory.
Sure.
Is that a word?
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really good. And then, guys, like, I know Arvin wasn't talking about this, but wherever you see kind of like frustration within an organization, I'm not going to talk about a church, but I'm going to talk about the Dallas Cowboys.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like, people have said, last night I was dropping off my kids at their grandparents, and Grandpa CJ, he was like watching the Dallas Cowboys, and he was like, "Oh man, the Cowboys are killing a brother. It's the hardest time to be a fan of the Dallas Cowboys."
Yeah, it is.
That's exactly how he talks.
Yeah, yeah.
He does it better because it's him.
Yeah, exactly. No.
So anyways.
Because he's him.
And he's, yes. But CJ has been a fan since Troy Aikman, Emmitt Smith.
Right.
Whenever they were dominant.
Yeah.
And he has said, "Oh, John, we got to get better players." And I was like, well, Dallas Cowboys,
Yeah.
their organization has had the best players
Right.
that money could buy
Totally.
on the team.
Totally.
And they still let their fans down in the playoffs
Sure.
or in a division championship. Still haven't been back to a Super Bowl.
Right.
And so I was like, I don't think it's the players.
Right.
I think it's higher up. And he was just like, well, maybe we need to get better coaching. And then I said, well, here's the thing.
Yeah.
The Cowboys have had different coaches every 3 or 2 years.
Yeah, the great ones.
The great coaches
Right.
that have actually done well at other places.
That's right. Yeah.
And again, this is me not throwing shade. It's just me stating facts.
Yeah.
There's someone above the coaches, and it is the board and the owner.
Jerry Jones.
Now, yeah, you said it. So anyways, and Jerry Jones, obviously.
We love you, Jerry. Thank you for watching
Yeah.
faithful viewer.
Yes, yeah.
Faithful viewer.
And
Faithful
thank you
viewer.
for funding Victory's Next Production and building our future buildings. Jerry.
Yeah.
And here's the thing. I don't know jack squat about owning a football team.
Me either.
So Jerry Jones, because I know you're listening,
Yeah.
and you're the Dallas Cowboys owner, and you're a billionaire.
God bless you.
Yeah, God bless you for that. You don't have to listen to me. All I am is stating the facts.
Yeah.
If you've had the best players coming and going, And if you've had the best coaches who have won at other places, you know, someone who's consistently good, regardless who plays or who coach, or regardless who plays, is the Ravens.
Wow.
For a long time, the Steelers were consistently good. For a long time, the Patriots were consistently good.
Yeah.
And yes, they had Tom Brady, they had the Jimmies and Joes, you know, they had the dudes.
Sure.
But there was also a certain type of rapport that the owner had with the coach and the players. It was a culture, it was an organization of, you know, really wanting personal growth.
Sure.
Really trying to enforce a culture of growth, you know? And whenever I was asking him, I was like, who was the coach of the Cowboys whenever they won consistently?
Yeah.
And, you know, and CJ, he said, well, it was Jimmy Johnson. Jimmy Johnson was the man. And I go, and did he have an issue with the owner? And he goes, oh, they got in knockdown, drag-out fights because Jimmy Johnson was making these grown men show up to practice at 6:30 a.m. He was treating it like a college.
Beautiful.
And Jerry Jones was saying, hey, you know, let them hang out at night. Like, these are superstars. Like, after you've won a few Super Bowls, like, you don't have to keep them, you don't have to treat them like children. But Jimmy Johnson was, I'm treating them like champions.
Right, right.
That was their big kerfuffle.
Interesting.
So when Jimmy Johnson left, he went and he got, who was the guy, from OU? Oh, Barry Switzer. Then he got Barry Switzer. And Barry Switzer was the guy who said this. He coached at OU. I know we're going off on sports, but there's a reason behind this, all of this. Okay,
absolutely.
So hold on.
Yeah.
So Barry Switzer, his whole thing was he told OU, and this worked at OU, and this works in some organizations. He goes, I don't care if you're out clubbing or at a strip bar until 3 a.m., but you better show up and you better lock in and do your job. That was his thing. But he did not care about them outside of their performance.
Right.
All he cared about was their performance.
Yeah.
Jimmy Johnson was
holistic.
He was holistic, being about your family, about your kids.
Right.
If you have a baby mama, you better be paying child support every month.
Right.
He was like holding people accountable.
Yeah.
And it was intense, but then you fast forward and you go, well, they also were Super Bowl champs.
That's right.
For several years.
Yeah, that's right.
So something worked.
Absolutely.
So Barry Switzer came on the tail end, and Jerry Jones let go of Jimmy Johnson because they just got in so much knockdown, drag-out fights, which if you're an owner and you're winning Super Bowls, I'd be like, keep doing what you're doing.
Yeah, exactly.
But he wanted it done differently.
Sure.
Barry Switzer won 1 year, the year after, but he won it with Jimmy's culture and his team.
Yeah.
And then after that, things began to fall apart, and they've never been the same since.
Wow.
And so that is the unique thing about if you're a part of an organization. Yes, you have to do your job. Yes, it's important that you do performance, but taking the holistic approach of being like, and you go, wait, what did that have to do with what we're talking about?
Everybody is the Jerry Jones of their own life. That's what it has to do.
Everybody is the Jerry Jones of your own life.
That's right.
So sometimes you have to get yourself into submission. Do what it takes to be, this is an allegory, but to be Super Bowl champions.
Yeah, that's right.
And you have to be built different.
That's right.
You can't do the film trips where you just show up and then get cussed out and chased away by a shotgun.
Yeah.
Like, if you want to do a good production, you then have to be more, there is a new level of things that have to be demanded of you.
Sure, that's right. Yeah.
If you're running an organization or a church, there's a new level.
Yeah.
And, you can easily screw it up because that's the beauty of free choice. And that's what God gives every single one of his believers.
Right. Yeah, what a lot of people fall into is, I don't get to be in charge here.
Yes.
So I'm not going to try hard. I'm going to do the bare minimum so that I'll coast, and then God will move me to the season where I'm in charge.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
You just said, so say that one more time.
Most people who don't get to immediately get what they want and be in charge, they'll just decide to settle, coast, do the bare minimum until God promotes them to be in charge.
What I have always seen is that once that person gets in charge, every person who works for them does the exact same thing.
That's right. That's right.
Whenever
that's right.
I was
yeah,
okay,
that's right.
sorry,
No,
Arvin,
go.
I'm going to have you close out after this.
Sure.
So I was the youth pastor over 24/7. There was a we had a someone who led worship, and it was a really, really incredible guy.
Yeah.
And there's younger people who would kind of complain about whether it was, we always do these songs, or
Yeah.
I don't like the way they run rehearsal, and da. And they kind of would have a bad attitude, and they would show up late.
Yeah.
And it was this, and then the lead worship leader left, and this person actually stepped in and became the lead. And he got to do things his way. People underneath him did the same thing he did.
That's right.
Talked bad about him.
Totally. Yeah.
And I had to confront it, and we had multiple sit downs just to shut it down.
Yeah.
And then that individual moved away. A third person under my leadership stepped into that position.
Yeah.
That person who talked crap about him had people talk crap about him.
That's right.
It was insane to me.
Yeah.
And I was like,
yeah,
if you just half cheek it,
Sure.
if you just don't give your all,
Yeah.
and you're not honoring wherever you go, you are always going to, people of the world call it karma. You reap what you sow.
No,
we
sure.
call it seed time and harvest.
Yeah, no, that's exactly.
Anyways,
exactly.
all right, now you.
No, you have to order from the menu of the restaurant you went to. So if you show up to Saul's restaurant,
Yes.
the only thing on the menu, you have to cook, you have to clean, you have to eat, and it's all poisoned. It's all toxic.
You said
So-
at Saul,
At Saul's restaurant. There's either
King
Saul or
Saul.
David. Yeah.
King Saul or King David.
You're operating in the order of Saul or in the order of David. David, with every decision, would go back to the Lord and go, how do you want me to steward this? He saw everything, whether he was beneath authority or in authority. He saw it as a matter of personal relationship with God. So he went to the Lord and said, how do you want me to handle this? How do I do this? And the times that he didn't is when he failed. And so that's why when I sit here in the production role, I've gotten very comfortable not being in charge. I've gotten really comfortable actualizing your vision and Pastor Paul and Pastor Ashley's vision, because I understand that my long-term destiny is not dependent on my getting out my ideas onto the stage and into the script. What is happening here at Victory is not even really about Pastor Paul and Pastor Ashley. God has something he wants for the community in Tulsa, and he's entrusted it to them and to you and to the team here. And so that's what's going on. That's what people don't realize until they're in leadership and it's too late and they go, I don't want to handle this weight anymore. I don't want to carry the weight of being you want to be a youth pastor with a microphone and you want your profile photo to be you looking at the crowd that you're talking to with a mic. Do you want to deal with students who are dealing with stuff at home? Do you want to deal with the logistics of making a safe environment, making sure youth leaders are safe, qualified, and have gone through growth track to talk to students? If you don't want that, that's 90% of the job. And the fact that you see it as a chore rather than that's the actual privilege, that those are the talents you're multiplying, not the speaking on stage. You can be best friends with the devil and be a great speaker.
Wow.
You know what I mean?
Say that again.
You can be best friends with the devil and be a great preacher. You can be best friends with demonic forces and still operate in your gift. Totally. That's exactly right.
Because the demons know scripture.
Totally. But do you see the invisible private elements of your talent as the actual reward? Because that gentleman who turned 5 talents into 10 in Matthew 25, turned 5 into 11 if we're looking at it long term, everything he wanted out of that experience, everything he got was an internal satisfaction. I have this trust with my master now. My master gave me something, I had the privilege of multiplying it. Do you do that with whatever you're serving? And so in my role, it's, okay, these productions, the one before I came in was Proof 2019, Easter 2019. In 2024, we did Proof again. Did the story multiply in quality?
Yeah,
Yes.
Arvin had a great idea about the stages of grief, and he made it better.
Did the number of people who were feeling self-actualized, that's my measure. That's that's not a chore to me. Oh, we got 250 people in the cast. We got to, if that's my attitude, then I'm telling God, please do not promote me. Do not give me more weight, trust, authority, and leadership. I cannot handle it. So the difference is, for example, now it's like, hey, we're going to Salt Lake City. These 15 people between cast and crew are giving their time and energy. And I know what it's like to not have a good experience on a trip. Yeah. So I'm going to, in service to them, I'm going to think ahead. I'm going to plan ahead. I want to make sure that they know where they're sleeping. I want to make sure they know all the stuff that they're going to need. So it actualizes in the gift of hospitality and feeding people and taking care of people, but it's rooted in this idea that between every single instruction and every production, we go to God and go, what do you want to do with this? If you're not doing that daily, then you are actively unsubscribing from the plan, purpose, and destiny of God for your life. So that's when we sat down and said that we could easily do another Christmas show that would please Christian audiences in Tulsa, Oklahoma in 2024 and not really have to think much. That's when we thought the next step in our evolution is to do a part 1 and part 2, to challenge ourselves to write something that works apart from itself and together. That is far more difficult to do in writing and planning and cohesion.
And no one asked us to do it. Pastor Paul didn't ask us to do it.
No one did. And so I am incapable of not doing that because I'm addicted to the idea that I have one life. God has granted me the opportunity to do one life. Wholeheartedness will determine everything for me. When Joshua and the Israelites invade Jericho, they win because they wholeheartedly gave God their attention and obedience. They didn't. Why do we have to walk around this building? Why do we have to walk around this town? I didn't see that in there. The next time, they go to a smaller town and they only take a few thousand people because they go, this is easy, and they get their butts kicked. Because then, from then on out, God says to them, take all of your fighting men. Take all of your fighting men. Because to not do so is to assume that this is mine and I determine the resources and how do we do it. That's poor stewardship. That's hiding and burying the talent that you were given. Opposed to saying, Lord, you gave me this, I give all of it back to you. Because that's proof that your perspective is not, this is mine, I'm in charge. Because you're actually never in charge. Even when you are the head of something and you're, carrying the weight of it, whatever, that's still God's. And if you see that with your family, with your career, with your relationships, with your relationship with yourself, if you treat yourself like you belong to God, you'll start to skyrocket.
If you treat yourself like you belong to God,
that's right.
You'll start to skyrocket.
And it will emanate out of you onto other people in your community. So I don't know of another way to move forward in the plan and purpose of God for one's life. And to be real honest, that is the order of King David, and there's a lot of joy there. There are people I know who've been in ministry for 5 years, and they act like old men who are in their 80s and 90s. I know people who are in their mid to late 60s and 70s. I know people who are in their late 70s who have been in ministry 40 years, who have dealt with catastrophes and tragedies of all kinds, who have lost children, who have lost dear, dear loved ones, who've been betrayed in the worst way, and they have the joy of a toddler. So it's like, okay, which one do you want?
Yes.
I want the right one. Yeah, exactly. And that's available to everybody. You're the Jerry Jones of your own life. And you're not a billionaire maybe in money, but you are in time. You got time. You have all this resource. You have all this time. You've got access to books and all the podcasts like this. And so, yeah, my hope would just be that everybody, wherever you're at, you're called there, and be the owner. Own the spot you're in. Own the space you're in. And then watch what God does with it.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, of course.
And in closing, guys, like what we talked about in the very beginning, we're removing the hurdles by wholeheartedness.
That's right. That's exactly it. Yeah.
By using your whole heart.
Yeah.
Not blaming, not being in our comfort zone.
Right.
Not, questioning your core belief system. Like he said, you're not a billionaire maybe in money, but you are in time. And this is not to make you feel bad. I told Arvin about 2 weeks ago, I have felt very convicted about just something that I have to improve on in my personal life. And, you know, I'm taking personal action steps of getting in a coaching program and really getting around people who are going to challenge me. I'm 40 years old. No one asked me to do it. I just am fed up being where I'm at. And I believe that for you. So you never outgrow growing.
That's right.
No one has ever arrived.
Yeah, if you think you've arrived, then you'll never go anywhere else. You better enjoy it. Yeah.
So sorry for all of our haikus, but that's what this whole season is. And so thank you for listening.
Yeah.
And we are grateful to see you next week on Behind the Scenes of Our Best Days.
Bye. See ya.
Bye-bye.